This weekend, the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup is in the sunshine at the Hungary ring. We're just outside Budapest. We're getting ready for the first part of qualifying. 20 minutes, 10-minute break, 20 minutes, one driver, one session to determine two grids going forward through this weekend's races on what has become very much part of the motorsport fabric for Budapest circuit at the Hungary ring. Home, of course, to the Hungarian Formula 1 Grand Prix. The Aqua Park in the background, but it's here that the World Touring Car Championship comes, the DTM, the European Truck Racing Championship. And this weekend, the place is overrun with GT cars, GT3 and GT4 plus, those in the Blancpain GT Sports Club as well. In the pit lane, the teams are getting ready. The pit lane will be open in about 5 minutes' time to get the first element of qualifying underway. David Addison and John Watson trackside as we get set for the first part of a busy day, John.
Indeed it will be, and it'll be very busy indeed for the number 2 Audi, because during the free practice that we had, and we're looking there at the championship overall points in the sprint championship, the number 2 Audi had mechanical, or they said electrical problems, so they didn't get to run at all. So going into qualifying virtually blind, Will Stevens and Dries van Voor.
As far as the championship is concerned, with the Sprint Cup, first of all, Alex Riberas and Christopher Mies have the advantage over Raffaele Marciello and Michael Meadows, but Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt determined to fight back if they can over the course of this weekend. We've got the overall, we've got Pro-Am and the Silver Cup as well. That's a car that needs some points out of the weekend, because a long way down now, Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt. Punctured tyre at Misano did not help at all. And as we get set for the first part of qualifying, number 63, run by the Grasser Racing team, is a car that you can never rule out, but it hasn't had the best of fortunes this year.
No, very much the case. In 2017, the dominant car and the dominant team. This year, things have changed, progressed, one might put it that way. And the 63 Lamborghini has not had that kind of domination that we did see. They would like to get back to a position where they could at least maybe challenge for the front or the second row of the grid, to put themselves in position to maybe challenge for a victory. Of course, here in Hungary ring, very tight, 14 corners, 4.3 kilometers circuit. Normally, in this sort of the heart of Middle Europe, you get this kind of build-up of temperature. It just gets hotter, hotter. I mean, almost to the point where you feel it's impossible to go out on the racetrack, because if the cars aren't overheating, the drivers surely will. But right now, just coming up to 20 to 10, and Saturday morning, the ambient temperatures are very comfortable, middle 20s. So the teams will have the best of the racetrack in this qualifying session. But of course, when they come into the first of the 2 races, one this afternoon, one on Sunday, will be in the heat of the afternoon, something else they've got to contend with.
So Q1 ready to get underway. There you can see the Black Falcon run Mercedes. That's the car of Hubert Haupt and Lukas Stolz, familiar from the Endurance Cup, coming to sprint for this weekend. And Lukas Stolz, very impressive in the Suzuka 10 hours a week or so ago.
Now, indeed, Lukas Stolz very impressive. In fact, back at, for the 24 hours as well, as there was that particular car.
Now, what about the Emil Frey Racing Lexus? We know that it can win. Certainly, we've seen that in the Endurance Series. There you've got Christian Klein and Albert Costa's car. Christian Klein will go first in qualifying. And is this the sort of ideal circuit for it?
Well, I thought you were making those comments. I was thinking, is this the bogey circuit for the Lexus? Because we know that the car, we saw how successful it was on Paul Ricard in the 6-hour event there. We know at Silverstone likewise was very strong, and at Spa. So the circuits that the car seems to have its strengths at are the more open flowing racetracks, where here in the Hungary ring it is a much tighter, a much busier layout. And I mean, you're really only exiting one corner before you're entering another corner, and whether that will allow the Lexus to get the flow that has really seen the car so successful on some of that more high-speed circuits remains to be seen. It's up to the guys to make the adjustments to the car, to try and get the best out of the car, but probably there are maybe other brands within the field that might find themselves slightly further forward than the Lexus.
Is that the same problem that might affect the Mercedes? Because you kind of feel that's another grunt and go car. There they are, ready to go, with Mercedes heading the queue. The green lights are on, the green flag shown at the end of the pit lane. And so Q1 is underway, with straight off everybody looking for clear track space.
Indeed, and the track right now, it's not going to get any better. The only factor that might come into it is that the track hasn't been used since the running on Friday. So tracks do change overnight. So it'll maybe take a 2 or 3 lap run for everybody to get the best out of their car. But of course, what they want to avoid is if any of these cars, driver combinations, are going out on the track on a new set of tyres, they may be slightly wary of using the tyre at a point when the racetrack is quite au point. But you made a comment there just a few moments ago, and refresh me what it was.
I was asking about the Mercedes and whether that might be in the same boat as the Lexus.
The Mercedes is a bit like that great film, A Man for All Seasons. It's a car for all racetracks.
Right.
It works pretty well everywhere. And in fact, yesterday afternoon, there was Raffaele Marciello in the 88 Mercedes, the car that was, well, he, apart from almost taking a wheel off it at Mazzano, has been consistently quick everywhere it's been. So they were, at the end of that session on Friday afternoon, quickest overall. Probably meaningless as we look at the number 2 car. This is the car that didn't get any running whatsoever, compounded by the fact that Will Stevens, who is driving with Dries van Thor in that car, has been involved in some LMP2 events. So going from a GT3 Audi, last race would have been in Spa for 24 hours, then into 2 endurance races in LMP2, which is a lightweight, high downforce sports prototype. He's got to recalibrate his brain and his body to the language that he's going to get from the Audi. So a tough session for the number 2 car, particularly it's going to be Will Stevens, I would imagine, out first in that car. Oh no, saying, look, Van Thor, in fact, so Lawrence Van Thor, so Dries Van Thor in the number 2. But for both of them, it will be a difficult opening lap. We don't really know what the car is going to give us. We suck it and see kind of attitude, but no doubt they'll be quickly on the case.
Now, 1 or 2 of the teams, looking at Grasser Racing Team in particular, being a little bit later out, again, trying to find some clear track space and perhaps hoping that they can do this qualifying session on just 1 run and use 1 set of tyres. There you can see setting purple sectors and using a lot of road, number 2 Audi.
It didn't take me long to bring up my whole hobby horse, because there you can see Dries Van Thor, not only did he run wide, he got the entire car completely off the racetrack. And as we've seen throughout the 2018 season, that the race director and the race stewards are now being much more efficient in terms of penalising drivers who abuse track limits. And that's up at turn 4. It's a quick-ish of all the corners, the 14 corners here. That's one of the quicker. It's more sort of a flick and balance the car on the throttle and the steering. But in this case, that might see the lap time being certainly looked at, depending what the overall time is. Of course, Dries Van Thor was the first car on a flying lap, got fastest overall sectors from sector 1 and 2, coming up now to the penultimate corner.
And we have a yellow flag out somewhere in the middle sector, and a red flag. A red flag. No, that's interesting. Straight away, the session is being stopped.
Luckily for Dries Van Thor, it means there's big-time Lex as well.
Norbert Siedler.
Well,
that's a big amount of damage.
I mean, you asked me about how the Lexus would get on here. Didn't anticipate, and I think that might be up at turn 4 as well. I think it is. It's coming out of turn 4 into turn 5.
He's got over the curb and presumably been spat across the road.
That's the normal assumption. You can see that the curbing, there's the red bit, then there's the green bit, then you go into concrete, and then you're beyond that. That's a big hit. The car's spun and it's just rotated and gone straight back across the racetrack into the barriers on the exit of turn 4. So bad news for the 114 Lexus, but maybe in some respects saved Dries Van Thor from having his first flying lap potentially being investigated for track abuse again at turn 4, and it's the exit of turn 4. So Christian Klein in the sister car coming back at a mandatory 50 kilometers per hour.
So there's the surviving Lexus, but looking at the damage, Norbert Siedler's car, you can't imagine he's going to be out for Q2, and I would question whether it's going to be out for the first race later on in the day. Looks,
I mean, hard to tell just for the glimpses we had. Clearly a lot of bodywork damage. The issue will be, has that gone any further? Has it gone into the suspension? And if it's gone into the suspension, will it have gone into the drivetrain? Because it's a mid-front engine car, rear-wheel drive. Will it have gone into the drive shafts, the hubs, maybe damaging the differential? A lot of things for the Lexus team. Emile Frey, they're going to have a lot of work. And the only factor is that the race, the first of these 2 sprint events, is later on this afternoon, so there will be a fair amount of time, but I would like to think that that car can be readied for the start of that event, which will be at approximately 2:45.
So we're at 9:45 local time. They haven't got a huge amount of space in between. First of all, they've got to get it back, they've got to assess it, they've got to see what parts are needed. Down in the pit lane, the teams then now will cycle through. We've not really had any representative lap times. Yesterday, in the free practice sessions, we got the times down to the 1:43s. We're quite a long way off that as Norbert Siedler surveys the damage. And we might be able to try and piece this all together. He's having a look at the damage. The flatbed has arrived.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone left, at the right side of the car has gone into the barrier, so he's rotated. Let's watch and see. Coming up the hill into turn 4. And he just floors the throttle, and then it starts to rotate, does a 360, and then it does another 180, and then it's bang. And it's all down the right-hand side. Looks from that view that by the time he hit the barrier, a lot of the speed had been scrubbed off. Majority of the damage is going to be superficial, i.e. bodywork, wing. But, you know, you've got to dig into your spares parts. You're not going to go down to your local Lexus dealer in Budapest and pick up a rear wing for a GT3 Lexus, are you, David?
You're not, and Norbert Siedler is the man on the red face that's got to explain all of that, because he's not a dummy, he's a pro driver, and he shouldn't be doing things like that.
No, and it looked to me like once the car was 4 wheels off, it looked like he was hard on the throttle, which then began the rotation, unless there was something which we need to find out later. Well, maybe our pit lane reporter will be able to be down at the Emil Frey garage and bring us that report. It'll be interesting to see what the teams say, because we're just judging it by what we've seen on screen, and obviously they've got much more information as to what was going on. And of course, when Norbert Siedler gets back, I mean, he can give us the first person explanation as to, I mean, it looks to me that was just down to Norbert Siedler in terms of the beginning and then the conclusion. But there are things that can come into play which are sometimes beyond the driver's control, and that will hopefully be brought to us very shortly.
Now, we are going to be about 8 minutes or so before we get things underway, not just removing the car, but also making sure that the barrier is safe, because a big heavy car like a Lexus would have done some damage to the arm cone and the supports behind it. So the car needs retrieving, and the track staff there just to make sure that the barrier is safe in case anybody else does the same thing and goes across the circuit.
I want to pick you up this big heavy car like the Lexus. Roughly everybody weighs the same.
True, yes.
So the point of the balance of performance, which is something we always talk about, and it's an ever-moving platform for teams. The weight of the cars can be adjusted up or down, but there is a minimum weight limit. And within the balance of performance, that can be shifted up and down by 10, 20, 30, 50 kilograms, depending on how competitive your car might have been. So all these cars are approximately the same weight. So whether it's a Lexus or a Mercedes or an Audi that hits the barrier, you've got the same kinetic energy going into the barrier. And looking at the barrier, there are a few dents or knocks in it, but nothing that would, in my view, preclude this session getting underway at, we're talking about 09:55 local time, which is in about just over 5 minutes.
So everybody else back down the pit lane, and the first run thwarted. So those that were on a quick lap are denied. They've got to do it again, and the field gets set then. But we know that number 114 will not be getting a lap time in. There is Norbert Siedler, who has got a bit of explaining to do now. And we can also start to have a look at the damage to the Lexus. One side's reasonable, the other side is a bit second-hand.
Yeah, the left-hand side, I mean, the bonnet you can see has been displaced and it's been smeared across the left-hand side of the car. So the bodywork down the right-hand side and the entire front section will have to be replaced. But the principal concern I would have would be, is there any suspension damage on the right-hand side to the front or rear? But probably more critically, because that's easily seen, it will be in terms of what might be in the rear with the transmission, the drive shafts, all that, the impact that I call it kinetic energy, can do damage that isn't initially obvious.
Let's see if we can get more on this. Our reporter Dakota Jane is down in the pit lane at Emil Frey Racing.
Lorenz, what happened there? Norbert looked like he hit the curb a little bit too hastily.
Yeah, absolutely. We only see it as well from the TV positioning, what we have so far, and he commented quick, yeah, that he hit the curb outside, so we have to see that we bring back the car as fast as possible. Luckily, we didn't have a hard crash, but I think it touched a bit at the rear right, so we hope the mechanics get the car as soon as possible to hopefully be back at the track as soon. For sure, for qualifying it will be really difficult. Now we focus on car 1.4 and hope that the car 1.14 will be ready soon for the next or for the first race.
Let's see how it goes. Thank you.
So Lawrence Frey, former racer himself in the very early days of Blancpain, in the GT4 class, and that was part of the endurance races. He raced in that, now concentrating on running the team. Let's just have another look at this, John.
Just watch the right rear start, see the smoke. Now, that to me was
counting me in, or
throttle, caused wheel spin, which caused the car to then rotate. Now, these cars also have got traction control, and you can dial in as little or as much traction control. And I wonder whether the Lexus, once the throttle was opened again, the traction control was either not dialed in at all, or there was a problem with that. So the team will see all this. They can analyze it just by eyeballing it, but they've also got all the information on a myriad of computers, so they can download precisely what was the reason. But you can certainly see a lot of blue smoke emanating from that right rear, even before the car's out of control. And that's not a normal circumstance, not normal situation. In my view, I would expect to see a car running wide over the curb as we just watched.
So there, number 90 Mercedes, that is the ASP car of Nico Bastien and Jack Manchester. Nico had a spin at Misano, which cost them ground towards the end of the race, and there is the Lexus. Just wondering whether that tire's come off the rim on the back, whether that was part of why it had that spin. Is that the result or cause?
And certainly hitting the barrier would have been a cause. Whether it was deflating prior to, I mean, if we watch the replay again and again and again, we might get more information and detail. My initial reaction was seeing blue smoke coming off that right rear corner before the car had actually lost control. And that, to me, is the beginning of the story. So up the hill again.
Just have a look and see whether the tyre goes down or rolls off the rim as he starts to slide. It looks okay there.
Yeah.
But
now there's the blue smoke coming now. As there's a little dip when you go over the green curve that dips down. But whether that's the tyre deflating or not, there's a bit of bodywork actually. Just we noticed there, a small amount of carbon fibre bodywork also comes off. But I've not seen a car in previous events when we've been here riding the curb like that and then having blue smoke coming from the right rear before it would, lose control. So anyway, hopefully the Emil Frey team will be able to analyse what they've seen, plus all the information that they've got back on their bank of computers, and they'll get another report from the pit lane just clarifying precisely the cause of that on somewhat, I think, surprising. Because Norbert Siegler on an outlap isn't really about to do something so stupid as throw the car on the barrier.
So maybe the evidence towards a puncture gathers more clout. We'll see what the team analyses. Pirelli, that supplies all the rubber, will have a look at the tyre as well. We are green, we are back live, so the session restarts a little earlier than was initially expected, and the teams are on their toes, dispatching everybody from the pit lane. They're out of turn 2, going down the hill, is the Dries van Tor Will Stevens Audi, so Dries van Tor has to do it all over again.
Yeah, and this time he needs not to ride the curb. Let's look at the number 17, Stuart Leonard. Robin Friens, great. So it's going to be interesting to see just how, particularly the number 2 Audi does deal with the reduced amount of time, although in effect the clock stopped when that incident occurred, but in total everybody would have lost maybe a couple of minutes because of the time taken from the point the red flag was thrown to the point you get back into the pits. Again, if you'd gone out on your freshest set of rubber or even a new set of rubber, will you have taken, even on that outlap at the part of the flying lap you were on, taken the best of the time? I mean, this is always an issue for people. It's so critical when the tyre is at its freshest. That's when you want to maximise your potential. So everybody more or less in the same situation as we look at Suzuki and Compact Perez and the number 19 Lamborghini just wandering around a little bit, trying to build a bit of temperature into the tyres, slows down coming through turn 13 just to give himself some track space as he got into the final turn 40.
So Ezequiel Perez Compact number 19 then goes for a time. We haven't really got a lap time out of anybody yet because we'd had precious little running before that red flag flew. So it's going to be the next lap really where we start to see times, the first proper flying lap of what has effectively become really now a 16-minute qualifying session for Q1 with that red flag. So there is Compact through turn 1. This is the car that he shares with Andrea Caldarelli. He will be behind the wheel for the second element of qualifying. He's the quicker of the two, but Ezequiel Perez compact gets faster and faster all the time, and the more experienced he gets, the more seat time he gets in the car, the better he becomes.
Yes, I mean, I think from 1 and a half years ago, when he really was first time in this Lamborghini, the Grasser Racing Lamborghini Gallardo, Huracan, not the Gallardo, the Huracan, I've seen significant progress from his overall ability, but just driving particularly when he's under pressure. So in a year and a half, there's been substantial, significant improvement for this young Argentinian driver. Andrea Caldarelli, as we mentioned, David, that more experienced overall, probably quicker, consistently quicker overall as well. But interestingly, the fastest first sector time, can't believe it, is my namesake in the BMW.
I was just looking at that. Andrew Watson is the man that has done thus far the absolute best in Sector 1. Very wide in the background there. Look, goes Hubert Hout in the blue Black Falcon Mercedes as Perez compact. We're focusing on rides the curve now as he comes down towards the end of the lap, heading towards, if you like, this stadium section out of turn 12. Then the road starts to climb here through 13 up towards 14, round the back of the paddock. Another hairpin to bring him onto the pit straight. Now, what sort of a lap time is this going to be? Anything in the 43s is really good compared to yesterday.
It's going to be a 44, 45, I would say, just judging by the, well, 44.6. Fastest overall in the final sector, but it's all irrelevant because the best time we saw yesterday was a 1:43.3. As Andrea Caldarelli, who looks on at Ezequiel. There's now Dries van Voor actually, who's gone quickest of all on a 1:44.0. That's the first flying lap that car has had in effect so far this weekend. So Nicolas Jamin in the Mercedes 87, second quickest by just over a tenth of a second. Andrew Watson, who had been fastest overall in that first sector, is currently in fourth place.
So the BMW, which again, a bit like the Lexus, tricks you into thinking it's a big car, although physically it looks long. It always looks, to my eyes, more of a touring car than a GT car, but we know it's a competitive car. The Valkenhorst squad having won at Spa, and Andrew Watson, who races McLarens in endurance and BMWs in sprint, graduate of Ginetta Racing, is a very rapid peddler indeed. He'll be the real gun in that car. 12 minutes of the session to go. Van Toor was quickest. Michael Meadows now goes to the top of the time for 1:43.985, and we are having Kenny Harbull warned about track limit abuse in number 751, the Sun Energy One Racing Mercedes. So the track limits, as perhaps feared, becoming a concern already.
Yeah, that's the 88 Mercedes Michael Meadows. That's the car that was driven by Raffaele Marcello yesterday that was quickest overall with a 1:43.3. So Michael Meadows currently just 0.6 of a second away from the time. A lot of cars running very, very wide coming out of the exit of turn 11. And I wonder how long it will be. We've seen this, the 751, the Sun Energy Mercedes, co-driven by Tristan Vautier. Did Tristan Vautier win in Suzuka?
Correct, yes.
At the weekend, the 10 hours of Suzuka. Yeah. So anyway, still 19. So it's the 19 now that's gone quickest overall. The Grasser Racing, Ezequiel, it's Pereira, compact. It says Pereira, Frank Pereira behind the wheel. I'm not sure. We thought it was Ezequiel Perez compact. Now the 66. Now the number 87. I mean, it's literally changing by the cars coming across start-finish line. So the 87 Mercedes has gone quickest to 1:43.897.
Yeah, I think that short code in the Lamborghini, the PER, is the abbreviation of the Perez bit of Perez compact.
Not Frank Pereira.
Yeah. So Ezequiel Perez compact has done now the absolute best in the first sector. Nico Bastian has gone quicker than anybody though in number 90 Mercedes, 1:43.498. Here is 88, which is fifth. It is Michael Meadows, who has done two personal bests. Double Carrera Cup GB champion goes second on a 1:43.817. He's 3 tenths back from Nico Bastian. So right now you've got Mercedes 1, 2, 3.
But this car, the 19 car, Ezequiel Perez compact behind the wheel, who's got fastest overall time in the first sector, waiting to see what he's going to deliver up in the second sector. Should be coming up in timing and scoring shortly. Well, 38.086. It's down on Michael Meadows, for example, by 2 tenths of a second. So it's unlikely that this time from Ezequiel Perez compact is going to challenge Nico Bastian, who's currently quickest. Mercedes second quickest with Michael Meadows' time. Maybe get into the top 3, but it's coming into the pit lane, so he's failed.
Yeah, he had a slow middle sector, didn't he? He's supported the lap. So Bastian, Meadows, Jamin, 1, 2, 3 for Mercedes. Audi fourth with Steins Kochhorst. 5th, Lamborghini. This car is Ezequiel Perez Compact. And 6th is 63 Lamborghini of Christian Engelhardt. Right, there's Dries Van Toor, who is 7th quickest, and he's good to go on a 2nd run here. So he'll be well worth watching now. Dries Van Toor blasts out of the pit lane.
There's the sister car to the 114, which you saw in the barriers at turn 4, and running very much more slow. Christian Klein behind the wheel, and whether he's coming in this lap or whether he's trying to maybe give the tyre a little bit of a break and then have another go. Currently that car is in 8th place on a 1:44.4, which is about a second away from the current quickest lap by Nico Bastia in the 90 Mercedes.
Yeah, you get the feeling there's more to come from this. Maybe the team just a little bit wrong-footed with that accident to the sister car, but now having to concentrate on this as you ride on board. This is coming up towards the completion of a lap. See the pit in on the far side. And the Lexus on what looks like a modest lap here, coming now up towards the completion. Perhaps it's the next one for Christian Klein that's going to be the gun.
Yeah, this the lap he just concluded was he was just driving around, preparing for a lap, looking partly for a clear track, maybe having done a couple of laps on the tyre to give the tyre a bit of breathing space, some time, maybe recover. So he tucks the car, the nose into turn 1, gets a good exit, clean exit, able to get on the power early, then through the curve that really isn't a corner, then hard on the brakes into this downhill off camber. Tricky corner, goes on and on and on, hugs the inside to give himself then the best opportunity to straight line going through turn 3, using a little bit of the curve on the outside. That's perfectly acceptable. Up the hill, I wonder what's going to happen to Christian Klein as the camera freezes and we go through. Well, he runs the curve, but this time for the 14 Lexus, no problem whatsoever. But doesn't really look to me like this out and out raw pace currently coming from the 14 Lexus on this lap either.
It's 8th fastest, but the first sector is slower than he has done hitherto. So again, it's a bit sort of average this lap, with all due deference to the ex-Grand Prix racer. The car, you're right, it just doesn't look that quick. It doesn't sound that quick. There isn't the same energy in it. Now maybe towards the end of the lap, he's picking up the pace.
Yeah, you can see that the body roll as the car came through turns 9, 10 into 11, then hard on the brakes down into this 90-degree right-hander at turn 12. Again, it's being economical on the exit to give yourself the best opportunity to shoot down into then another almost 180-degree left hand up the hill, and there's a bump just, maybe they got that smoothed out. There was a nasty bump in previous years coming into the final turn. Looks fine on the exit, but what's the pace? I just don't know the pace on this lap. 1:44.5, so clearly over a second slower than the overall best.
But interestingly, a personal best in the last sector. So Klein, I think now, is picking up his own pace. This next lap could be worth watching.
Looks like that's the, Alex Ribeira's 1:43.457. So the number 1 Audi pops up to the head of the charts. The first time we've seen an Audi ahead at the top in this session with just under 6 minutes remaining.
So the championship leaders go to the top of the times. In the meantime, what is Christian Klein up to within the sectors? We'll get the first sector through, and it's a personal best. So this lap is indeed rather quicker for Klein. He's down to 9th because of Riveras, and an absolute best in the first sector again from Ezequiel Perez Compact. So as the Mercedes comes out onto the circuit, Riveras is the fastest. You've got Klein in a hurry, and you've also now got Perez Compact looking very promising indeed as well. That's the quickest car thus far.
Yes, but it's on an in lap, so Alex Ribeira says, having achieved his goal, he's gone out, done a 1:43.4, and there may be a bit left in the tank. I don't know whether they'll come in and make a change or whether he'll just use this lap to settle everything down and have another go. Racetrack for him right now is pretty good. He's got no traffic around him, so if he was on a flying lap, this would be the perfect time to try. Oh, and the Lamborghini, the 63, the sister car, running very wide again on the edge of the turn 11.
Now, Compact is wide, but he's done an absolute best and a personal best. This car, 13th fastest at the moment, but it should be an improvement this time as he comes up towards turn 14 now. Up the hill, climbs into the hairpin, the car quivers a little bit, and he goes deep into the corner, so he'll have scrubbed off a little bit of time up towards the line. He comes, where will this put him? Ezequiel Perez Compact, 13th at the start of the lap, breaks the beam and goes 3rd fastest. A 1:43.636, good effort.
Good effort, but could have done better.
Indeed.
Because there were a couple of points in that last sector where it looked like he was just a little bit too aggressive coming into turn 12 and then 13, particularly 13, and then in the middle of 14, the car didn't look as stable on the entry, looking into the Grasso Racing pits, and amongst those standing in the background is the father of Lois Hazemans.
Now there's Peter Skotthorst, who is driving 55 Audi, and he is only 13 fastest, and this is a car that needs to get a little bit of a wriggle on. It's the Attempto Racing car. Brother Stein Skotthorst, of course, winner at Zolder in race 2. So with the Lumirang showing on the screen that he is 13th in the times, the Audi chips on, and this should be an improvement as well, John. 2 personal bests.
Indeed. So they're currently in 13th place, so you'd like to think. And Andrew Watson, just as we speak, in the 37 BMW, it's popped up into the top 10 and 8th place. Good showing this weekend. Normally, the BMW has not been at its greatest strength again, is very much like that of the Lexus or maybe the Mercedes or other mid-front engine cars. Is on the higher speed, the flowing tracks, but a good effort indeed to be up to 8th quickest. Christian Engelhardt, he's now running just directly behind the sister car in 4th.
And then Nico Bastien goes to the very top, 1:43.382, quicker again on his last lap, but he's only 75 thousandths ahead. We're talking narrow margins here, and right now the leading 13 are all covered by just under a second, which underlines around a 4.3 kilometre long circuit how competitive this championship is.
So coming up to the conclusion, the 87, you've got Nicolas Jamin in currently 6th position, personal best, 1st and 2nd sector. Looked like a reasonably good entry into turn 13. Again, that sort of almost, you could, as we saw with Perez compact in the Lamborghini, seeing it now with Jamin in the Mercedes, almost overrunning the entry to the corner and having to get out of it. Goes 3rd quickest, good run, personal best in all 3 sectors.
So Mercedes, Audi, Mercedes, Lamborghini, Mercedes, Lamborghini is the top 6, and just up to 7th, Audi. Simon Gachet, who has been very impressive this season in both endurance and sprint, he was 7th, but that's now changed because into the top 6 has gone 35, the SMP Racing Mercedes, and that, for the first part of qualifying, has Vladimir Aptuev behind the wheel.
66, Audi, Scott Schoenhorst, or Stein Schoenhorst, I should say, a little bit tail loose around the middle part of the sector.
And have a look at Bastian's next lap, because he's, although down in sector 1, just done another absolute best in the middle.
37.4 for that 2nd sector. And he improves again. Last lap, 1:43.1, that's the quickest lap we've seen all weekend. So fastest overall 2nd sector, personal best, 3rd. Nothing dramatically slow in the 1st sector, but all combined, overall quickest with what, just over a minute to go.
And Nico Jamin up to 3rd, Michael Meadows is up to 4th, and Christian Engelhardt, even though he did a better lap time, has now been overhauled by others. Getting a replay here of the Audi.
That's the 66,
yeah. Oh,
that's what I'd seen. Just a caught the very end of it when he ran wide, kicked up. So that was the middle sector. Steen Schoenhorst just getting it. That was the result of getting it wrong in the middle part of the corner. He just had to make the best of the exit he could.
Right, there's Nico Jamin, who will get one more lap out of this, because we've got 37 seconds on the clock, less than a lap time left in the session, and Nico Bastien has done an absolute best in the 1st sector. So the number 90 Mercedes, Nico Bastien, making amends for that spin late race at Misano last time out. He is going exceptionally well. There he is. Can he go quicker than a 43.1? Could we get into the high 142s? Well, no, he's down in the middle sector this time. He's lost 2/10 in the mid-sector.
Yeah, 2/10 doesn't seem an awful lot of time to lose, but in the scheme of things, it's an awful lot of time. But currently still overall quickest by just over 1/10 of a second. And as we said at the beginning of the session, the Mercedes is a car for all circuits, and certainly proving to be the case so far in qualifying. Fastest and 2nd quickest are 2 Mercedes. Let's see coming across the line. Can he improve? No, he doesn't. He's 2/10 down. He never regained the time lost in that middle sector. Checkered flag is out.
So Nico Bastien with a 1:43.198 tops the times. Very good effort that in the Mercedes. Nico Jamin up to 2nd fastest, and then Alex Riveras 3rd in number 1 Audi.
Oh,
Very, very, very wide. There goes Compact. 6th quickest, doesn't improve.
A lot of this track abuse thing, some of the reason why you're not seeing it maybe being flagged up as regularly as we do in other circuits, is the fact that if you go that far off the racetrack, you actually end up going slower in your lap. You don't make time. There are other places and other racetracks where you do make up time, but maybe here in the Hungaroring, it's one of the racetracks where by going way off racetrack, getting all 4 wheels completely off the black stuff, actually penalises you rather than benefits you.
Now what about number 14, Lexus? Only 13th. Christian Klein's session has never really gelled, has it?
It's been a bit of a practice or a qualifying of bits, parts of the racetrack, never stringing together all 3 sectors. This looks a good final sector for Christian Klein. So currently in 13th place, can he make any improvement? No, that lap doesn't do anything. No. Goes up to 10th, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, he does. He gains 3 places. So up to 10th, he's into the top 10 with a 1:44.034.
And that's 8 tenths away from the pole position time. So Christian Klein does improve. There is Nico Bastian, who has been mighty impressive in that session.
Absolutely.
Not just one go, but lap after lap after lap, getting quicker and quicker.
Indeed, and we just got a quick glimpse into the team pits. Jack Manchester, and you can just imagine what Jack's going through, thinking, wow, my teammate really has done a stunning job. Now I've got to go out and consolidate to try and give us the best overall combined times to put us as far forward on the grid for the first of the 2 sprint events this afternoon.
And they, of course, lead the Silver Cup. So, Nico Bastian, it is the fastest by 0.151 of a second from Nico Germain. Alex Riveras goes 3rd fastest, so it's Mercedes, Mercedes, Audi. 4th, Mercedes, Michael Meadows. 5th quickest, the Lamborghini in the hands of Christian Engelhardt. And then 6th, the sister car of Ezequiel Perez Compact. 7th fastest, number 35, Vladimir Aftuev, ahead of Dries Van Thor's Audi. And then Simon Gachet just ahead of Christian Klein to round out the top 10. 11th, the big BMW of Andrew Watson, ahead of the Audi of the curb-hopping Stein Schotthorst. 13th quickest is where you get brother Peter Schotthorst. The car's been given over now to Pierre Kappa, who but half 14th in his Mercedes from Loris Hezemans and then Piti Veron-Bahti. 17th quickest, Adrian Delina from Stuart Laddon. He's never really featured in that. Kenny Harville from Pro-Am is next, ahead of the Malterex Pro-Am Audi. Neil Stevenart 21st, and no time recorded for Norbert Siedler. So those times now will be of course, academic interests for what we will have next, because the times will be a fresh set going into the second part of qualifying, which will determine the grid for race 2.
So that is how the bonnet on the Lexus should look when it hasn't been rubbed on the barrier on the exit of turn 4, while the sister car is on the other side of the garage, one would assume. Having, well, I can't even see it, isn't it? Maybe it hasn't been returned yet to the team, which would be a disappointment.
Yeah.
It's hard to, it's so dark once you go to the bright pit lane into the darkness of a garage, but I can't certainly see the sister car. So Christian Klein up to 10th place, but it never, as I said just a few moments ago, never really felt, and you saw this also, David, that the Lexus and the 4.3 kilometers of the Hungaroring had married together in a way where you could really, really exploit the potential of the Lexus's car.
Agreed. Yesterday, if you take the free practice periods, those cars, again, certainly in the second session towards the end of the day, 13th was the number 14 entry, and 114 also was struggling for pace yesterday. Well, let's hear from Nico Bastian, because he has been a real gun this morning in the first qualifying session. He's with Dakota.
Nico, well done. That was such a great run from you. 2 out of 3 sectors fastest. Happy with that?
A little bit unfortunate that it's not the 3rd sector as well. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm very pleased. I'm very happy for sure. It's my first pole in Blancpain GT in the Blancpain GT Series, so I'm very happy for sure. And actually, it's very important. It's maybe one of the most important poles you can get this year, because you cannot overtake here. So when you have a clean start, it's already 80% of leading at least your stint. Then we see in the second stint understand what's going on with my teammate. But my job is done. I'm very happy, and I'm very grateful also because I had a great car by ACA.
Now this is Jack's first time on a Hungaroring. Have you given a few pointers, because clearly you're on point?
Well, it's also the first time for me here, so I also have no idea really what I'm doing. But no, I like the track. I like the track. It fits to my driving, obviously, and for sure Jack is learning quite well, but he needs time for sure. He's 19 years old, and he has not so much experience from slower categories, so he needs time, but everybody gives him time, and so it should be okay for him. And now we see what he can do in qualifying.
That's what I was just about to ask you. What about Q2? Nervous?
I'm not nervous. I hope just that he can show a great performance, and now we take what we get, and for sure it's his learning year. So even when he is doing mistakes, I'm not sad with him.
Thank you.
So Nico Bastian racing here for the first time. A mighty impressive effort, that, isn't it?
Indeed. I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't raced here, because he races in a whole variety of categories over a number of years. You would have assumed, with the amount of racing that does take place at the Hungaroring, that he would have had experience of the circuit, but certainly coming here the first time, other than running in the Friday practice sessions, he would have obviously got the chance to feel the circuit, but principally get the rhythm of the racetrack. And obviously the ASP Mercedes very, very much dialed into the racetrack, but of course, as was asked of Nico Bastian, Jack Manchester, he's now having to follow the driver, his teammate, who's just recorded the fastest lap in the first part of qualifying, and that creates an additional kind of pressure. So what Jack's got to do is almost discount what the car has achieved and just focus on what he can do with the car, which we know is a really quick car, but the point is not to make any what I would call schoolboy errors and throw the car into the barrier. It's easily done, and you can do it because you generate and create that self-pressure, and that could be a downfall. So let's hope Jack has a cool head, and he can just go out, do a number of laps, do the best he can, and we'll see what happens at the end of the session, where that number 90 Mercedes ends up on the grid.
Christopher Hasse taking over from Simon Gachet in the Santalot car. There is 87. That's now going to be given over from Nico Jamin to Denis Bulatov. It went well, of course, the pair of them in Misano. 87 Mercedes then good to go as we get set for Q2. Second fastest that car in the first part of qualifying. Did a 1:43.349, a couple of tenths off Bastian. So the drivers now get set. The fast lane is open, and we are about a minute and a half or so away from getting the second qualifying session underway. And of course, these days it is two standalone sessions for races 1 and 2, not like the early days of the Sprint Cup where you had a qualifying race and then a main race. Now they're equally weighted and qualifying of equal importance.
So Marcus Winkelhock undoubtedly performed better than we saw his teammate do, because obviously Marcus Winkelhock is legend, but so much experience and so much knowledge, having raced here so many times. So it'll be interesting to compare what Marcus Winkelhock does as he makes, what's that on? Page. He's scrolling through the onboard computer to get the information that he thinks is going to be beneficial, and just to check other aspects of what's available. So he's scrolling through. Let's have a little look and see.
Low fuel pressure.
Yeah.
Tyre temperatures are there. Interesting, isn't it, then?
Yeah.
Here tells you the speed.
And also tyre temperature too, which is very interesting. A lot of information available. How much of it a driver will use once he's running, and particularly at the qualifying, is another matter.
Well, we are about to go, 25 seconds before the lights go green at the end of the pit lane. This is Q2. This will determine the grid for Sunday's race in the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup. The team's ready. Some cars released relatively early when the fast lane was open, so they get to the front of the queue at the top end, pit in end in Grasser Racing Team, which I suspect may well hang on to its cars and try and release them late and therefore get them into clear track space.
I mean, if you're at the far end of the pit lane, which is where the Audi team, the WRT Audi team is located, you've got a pretty good chance to get out early, but of course you might choose just to hold back and be patient. So the number 2, the Dries van Voor Audi, the car that had so little running on Friday that left Will Stevens behind the wheel. Waiting to see the Audi of Christopher Hasse So waiting for the instruction as to lift the lollipop and then to go.
At the Belgian Audi Club, Team WRT, they're doing the same thing, just biding their time before the car is released. And the engine is fired up. That's number 3, which has now got Ricardo Feller behind the wheel. So everybody streams uphill, steering away from the curb. Everybody, of course, alerted to the perils because of Norbert Siedler's demise. But I still think that that tyre may have had something to do with that, but we will find out.
Yeah, there was certainly something that didn't look right, and that blue smoke was the telltale that there was something that was not functioning correctly, whether it may have been a deflating tyre or not, but whatever it was, that was the cause, in my view, as Christopher Mies, the always impressive Christopher Mies.
Just gets on with it, doesn't he? There's no fuss, just gets on with it.
Just a super guy, proper team player. Will Stevens in the car that shares with Dries van Thor. Will, as I mentioned earlier, coming out of, or from the back of 2 WEC events where he was driving, or one WEC event where he was driving an LMP2 car. Totally different kind of body language from the car, the feel, the level of G-force, whatever, back now into the GT3.
So that's Pierre Caffer, who is now in the Attempto number 55 Audi. He's taken that over from Peter Schokholst. And Pierre Caffer, vastly experienced, single-seater racer, GT racer, DTM racer, sports car racer, you name it, he's been there. What can Pierre Caffer do in this 20 minutes to get the car up the order? Remember, the best time that we had in Q1 was a 1:43.198. That's what they're aiming for now.
The track ought to be slightly better. The ambient temperature has not really risen, you know, in the period since the first session concluded. So I would assume that this session, fundamentally, the quickest lap should be slightly quicker than the one we saw from Nico Bastian. So maybe we'll get somebody sneaking into the very high 1:42s.
I mean, where do you go down the list for your real star drivers in this? There are so many of them. Making a prediction for pole position, very difficult indeed.
Raffaele Marciello
must be near the top of that list.
Said
Yes.
it in harmony. Yeah, you'd have to say that that 88 Mercedes, the sister car, the 90 with Nico Bastian, was quickest. What's that all about? Just not sort of Christopher Mies being slightly wayward, coming through turn 8 and 9, then up all the way through to turn 11 now, and you very quickly get there, then hard on the brakes, down a few gears, fastest overall second sector, in spite of that little whoops that he had.
So Christopher Mies then about to put in the book his first flying lap. We're getting absolute bests in sectors by Mercedes and by Audi. But now, let us see what Christopher Mies can do. He was quickest in the middle. He's now lost that best. You've also got going nicely Robin Fritz. As over the line goes Christopher Mies, and he does a 1:44.281. Will Stevens goes second on a 45.290. And to the very top goes number 66, Kelvin van der Linde's Audi, 1:44.279.
So these are the first flying laps. As we look at the 6 Mercedes coming through, turns 5, 6. So Robin Friens has just now got a and Marciello, 1:42.7. There we go, the fastest car into the 42s. We sort of picked Marciello as being the potential pole sitter in that car. But his first sector time has been now eclipsed by Christopher Mies in the number 1 Audi. Marciello on his quickest lap up until about 10 seconds ago had purple in all 3 sectors. Now Christopher Mies is potentially a challenge to that time. We'll have to wait and see what his second and third sectors can deliver.
And have a look at Albert Costa, who has gone third in number 14 Lexus. He's gone about 2/10 quicker than did Christian Klein in the first session. Carlo Van Dam in the Ferrari is now up to third on a 1:43.745. There's a lot of shuffling still going on here.
Yeah, that's a lot of energy going on in this second flying lap for everybody. Personal best in second sector for the number 1 Audi, Christopher Mies. So he potentially could be a big threat to Raffaele Marciello. Certainly could put his Audi up into second place based on what we're seeing in the first and second sectors. Coming through turn 13.
He's lost 4/10 in the middle sector. He's done a personal best, but it's about 4/10 down on what the absolute best is. So Christopher Mies should improve, but by how much, we'll have to wait and see. Marciello, Stolz, Fritz is the top 3. Mies goes through and goes third, a 1:43.409. That's 6/10 down on the top time.
That's a bunch of time. That is an excellent lap from Raffaele Marciello. And again, a little bit deep into turn one at the end of pit straight as we look at the 17.
Robin Fritz.
Yeah, Robin Fritz comes across start-finish line, currently in 4th position, comes across the line, wait to see any further improvement, no, 1:46.7, so that was not a lap, a flying lap of any consequence. Just building now to have yet another go with 14 minutes of the session to go.
Franck Pereira has had a lap time taken away for abuse of track limits at turns 6 and 7. That's the chicane at the top of the circuit. This is Lukas Stolz. He's second. He's done an absolute best in sector 1. He's a little bit down, but only by hundredths in sector 2. He is looking to make up 0.318 of a second to go fastest. So this needs to be an absolutely belting last sector as he comes into turn 13. The car a little bit sideways as he puts the power down. You've got to be a bit patient with the throttle there. He climbs up the hill into the last corner. This long right that loops you back onto the pit straight. Can he go onto provisional pole position? He's up the curb on the outside of the corner. Stolz will break the timing beam, and he does a 43.315. He lost out in the last sector. Go slower.
Yes, that was the time lost in the last sector indeed, as we look at the 19. See what can be done. Andrea Caldarelli, one would say quicker of the two drivers in the 19, but they, in effect, in terms of overall out-and-out pace, the gap between Perez, Compact and Caldarelli, not an awful lot. Tristan Vautier in the 751 Mercedes up into 5th place. Again, a Pro-Am car leading that Pro-Am category from the 39 Ferrari of Carlo Van Dam.
There to the pit lane goes the Santalok Audi. So 26 comes in. That's the Martin Fingerhop car. Shares with Neil Stevenart. Number 14 of Albert Costa is down to 8 for 43.757. So he's nearly a second away from the top time here, which is a very impressive Raffaele Marciello gun lap. But Costa will stay out for one more lap.
So he sacrifices the lap he is on to get the best exit. He's got a very good exit out of turn 14, going on to another flying lap. In the meantime, 63 Lamborghini Mirko Bortolotti has improved, but only up into 10th position, 5th row of the grid. It's not coming together for whatever the reasons are for that 63 Lamborghini in the manner it did certainly in 2017 season.
Christopher Haase really pressing on, a little bit crossed up as he came down there towards turn 12. And just going back to what Nico Bastian was saying at the end of Q1, it's very hard to overtake around here. You hear that from different drivers in different categories, so qualifying absolutely vital. Haase is putting a lot of work into this.
Yeah, interesting to see that they've got on the side of the door a sponsorship from another manufacturer. Yes. I thought, that's interesting. A truck manufacturer sponsoring an Audi and a GT3. Well,
I was looking at that earlier thinking, I don't quite get the synergy out of that, but anyway.
Tristan Vautier further improves up to 5th position in the leading Pro-Am category, still ahead of the 2nd place Carlo Van Dam and the Ferrari. Their gap is, well, literally, it's only 50 thousandths of a second. There is the 63 Mirko Bortolotti, personal best sector 1, nothing remarkable, in fact, probably 6/10 down in sector 2. So Mirko Bortolotti not really looking to see this time do anything to challenge more than roughly 5th, 4th row of the grid at best.
And we've got just over half the session still to go. So Marciello is on track and he's fastest by 3/10 from Lukas Stolz. It's Christopher Mies who is 3rd, it's Fritz 4th, and improvement has just come from Bortolotti up into 9th, and also Denis Bulatov is up into 8th ahead of him. You're riding on board the 63 Lamborghini. There is number 55 Audi, which we have got now with Pierre Capra at the wheel, but it's only 19th fastest, this car.
Yeah, but it's 1.9 seconds. That's a, way. I mean, if it was maybe a second, you'd have thought you've got an opportunity, but 1.9 seconds is a big ask for Pierre Capra to try and find. If he could find half of it, it would probably put him into comfortably inside the top 10, maybe even 7th or 8th position.
So the pit lane is pretty busy at the moment because poleman Marciello is in. Will Stevens, only 18th. He has improved on his last lap at 1:44.684, but there's more to come from that car because he is nearly 2 seconds off the top time.
Yeah, and Will this morning was, I didn't get the running yesterday. I just need to get some seat time to reassess everything that I've sort of put away in storage since Spa 24 hours just a month ago.
So in comes 25. That is the Santa-Lock Audi that Christopher Haase is behind the wheel. And that will go into his garage.
Very, I mean, I have to say, slightly bizarre to see a truck manufacturer sponsoring a Blancpain Sprint GT3 car. No reason why not.
So Christopher Haase stays behind the wheel. Where is he? 7th fastest. It is Marciello and Stolz 1 and 2 for Mercedes. There is Marciello's car. 3rd is Audi Mies. 4th Audi Fritz. 5th Mercedes Vautier. 6th Ferrari Van Dam. 7th Audi Hasse. 8th Mercedes Bulletov. 9th Lamborghini Bortolotti. 10th Lexus Costa. And of course, only one in the session, Marcus Paltela, number 114, not getting into the session because of the damage incurred by Norbert Siedler in the very early part of Q1.
A little bit of work at the rear of the 25, whether that's a rear roll bar adjustment or an adjustment of the shock absorber or whatever, maybe a ride height. Difficult to tell because of the enclosed bodywork on these GT3 cars. To see the precise adjustment that's being made, probably the simplest thing would be just a roll bar adjustment to either soften it off to give you a little bit better traction off some of these lower speed corners, or maybe a little bit more stiffness to try and avoid the roll that you will get at the rear of one of these cars. A lot of weight high up in a GT car compared to, let's say, a single-seater. So if you can control the roll, you might pick up a little bit more time.
So they're awaiting his turn. Albert Costa at number 14, ready to go back out. The very, very rapid Spanish driver. He gets a new set of Pirellis to go on the car. 7.5 minutes to go then as the clock counts on down.
Lovely when you get a brand new set of race tyres, these Pirellis, and it will be, depending on how the tyre responds here in Hungaroring, he might want to go pretty aggressive on his outlap, he might want to be a little bit more circumspect, but the point is he's got to make sure that when he comes through, looking at, wow, that is pretty impressive, watching the Mercedes Tristan Vautier just wringing the neck.
Yeah, Vautier
absolutely
mighty
committed
a week ago with that victory with Raffaele Marciello and Mara Engel in the Stuka 10 hours. This car was in that race. Kenny Harville shared with, amongst others, Lucas Stolz, but it's Vautier with Harville this weekend, and he runs very deep into 12.
He just threw everything away there, just was too quick, couldn't get the car slowed down, and lost all the momentum, but particularly the drive off turn 12, and that will have a bearing on his final sector times. But the actual car was in Suzuka as well.
And is on duty this weekend, Kenny Harville as well, racing in the sports club. Vautier goes 4th, a 1:43.491. There, number 19. Now this has got behind the wheel of it Andrea Caldarelli, who we know is a rapid driver. There's nothing quite like seeing Caldarelli flat out, is there? And he's 14th then as he comes up towards the timing line now. But his last lap was cancelled for track limit abuse.
Well, he just made it up to 3rd place, so that lap has been cancelled. Lap 6 indeed. So Andrea Caldarelli will be very disappointed. But that's the penalty. That is the penalty. And you know, a racing driver should always be flat out. That's what you're there to do.
Michael Meadows watching on from the pit bunker you saw a moment ago, watching this car, his car, which is the Raffaele Marciello Mercedes, this different livery that we saw for Spa and onwards for the rest of the championship season. But I think Raffaele has bailed on this lap, hasn't he, with just over 5 minutes still to go.
He certainly, this lap is not a flying lap that he's going to put in the record book. And now it's very important on this final turn, turn 14, to get the drive off the exit to give you the maximum straight line speed potential down into turn 1. Whereas at the end of a flying lap, you tend to be slightly more aggressive, and maybe you can't get the car tucked in quite the way he would have done as he started this flying lap. But again, down in turn 1, the danger is you overrun into the corner, and you're having to wait for the car to get the bite, the grip, particularly at the front, before you can open the throttle. And that looked to me like Raffaele Marciello was a little bit too aggressive on the entry into turn 1. Wait and see, first sector time. He'll be coming up pretty soon as we see into turn 4, and then hard on the brakes. Just, you know, trying to get the front of the car to turn in. So that sector time, 36.7 first sector. 36.6 is the quickest overall. It was within a tenth of a second, but it didn't look anywhere near as quick as the purple time that we've seen in that sector so far.
Big bite of curb taken as well through turns 6 and 7, aka the chicane. He's coming up towards the end of the middle sector on the exit here of turn 11. As that's straight down the hill towards turn 12, and look at that, an absolute best. So a little bit down in the first sector, but Raffaele Marciello gets it nicely through 12, uses a little bit of the run-off, but there's traffic ahead of him as well.
Yeah, don't think it's going to come into play for the Italian. Again, pretty good through that turn 13. Then watch here, now can he get the nose of the car in? He can't get it in quite the same way, but it's the exit here where he gets the car making a late apex, gets a good strong drive. 142.7 was his previous best, 142.802, so within, you know, hundredths of a second of matching his previous best, which is still currently with just over 3 minutes remaining provisional pole. As we go back to the number one, Christopher Mies, never ever to be underestimated. It's the Lamborghini behind, way wide, coming through turn 11. Personal best, first and second sector.
Yeah, Christopher Mies chipping away. Now he's got to find 0.212 of a second to go second and split the Mercedes of Marciello and Stolz, and he also might have a bit of traffic up the road. He'll get another lap, maybe even 2 more laps out of this. Here is Mies into turn 14.
Traffic was kind to Christopher Mies, but nonetheless it's always a distraction not knowing whether that will be the case or not. Mies comes across start-finish line and remains fourth quickest. Maybe that fraction of seconds or so lost in the last couple of corners contributed.
I think he's lost out, hasn't he? Because Carlo Van Dam is up to third.
He is.
He's found some time. So although Mies went quicker, he was mugged by the Ferrari, so he's down to fourth. Now Marciello, absolute best in the first sector. 88, Raffaele Marciello could go quicker again. As you look at Marcus Winkelhock heading up towards the end of the lap, this is a car that's quite a long way down in the times, really. 14th, but it's Marciello who is the man to watch now. He's down in the middle sector.
Yeah, that was just a poor entry into the final corner, just having to balance the car on the steering and getting back on the throttle. So goes 14th, it's an improvement.
Marciello in traffic. I think this lap has been thwarted. Bortolotti's up to second. Marciello gets through on the inside of the BMW then, goes by, but is he going to be an improver? It was a 42.7 he's got to try to beat, and it's a 42.688. An absolute best, and then slower than he had been in sectors 2 and 3, but even that is enough to let Marciello go even faster for the top time. Brilliant effort.
Outstanding by Raffaele Marciello. I mean, we keep saying it, we know that Marciello has got out-and-out raw speed, and he's combining it with maturity and just putting together a lap in spite of, particularly there's the third sector that he lost probably the most time, yet it was still good enough to see him improve by a tenth of a second. Christopher Mies, again, everybody goes out quite wide in the initial part of the final turn, so Christopher Mies down in 5th place, needs to find some pace, 143.5, slower than his previous best, so he remains as up to 6th place Christopher Haase in the 25 Audi.
Indeed, so to the top 6, as you say. Will Stevens 17th, so another improver, but he's a long way down to where he needs to be. As you see, number 14, Albert Costa, down in the first sector. The flag is imminent because we've got less than a lap time left in the session now. And it looks as though Raffaele Marciello is going to be on pole position. So the 88 Mercedes looking very strong indeed this weekend. Michael Meadows 4th in his session. And Michael did a 43.5, but nearly a second quicker. 9/10 up is Marciello's time.
Dennis Bolotov in the 87 Mercedes, personal best first sector, running behind the 14 Lexus there. You just see it ahead. So Lexus, Albert Costa, nothing remarkable. Still a good time, but nothing a personal best. Nothing in the second sector for the Lexus either. Bolotov 37.6 against the 37.0, which is the ultimate time. So 6/10 down in that one sector alone. So the 87 Mercedes currently in 8th position, might make a small improvement. Tristan Vautier is the car directly ahead of him. That's the Pro-Am 751 Mercedes.
Slithered a little bit, didn't he, through 13 on the climb up the hill. Out of that last corner, now up towards the timing line. Dennis Bolotov, good in sector 1, down in sectors 2 and 3, takes the flag, but does go quicker. a 1:43.298. So a good effort, that.
Yeah, and puts him ahead of Tristan Vautier, which, and I have to say, for Bulletov, that's a very, very good drive. Tristan Vautier is a full Pro-Am signed-up driver.
Yeah.
And to outperform Tristan Vautier here in qualifying in an identical car, good effort.
And there, 1 or 2 heading into the pit lane. The Audi stationary, and I just wonder whether there was some silliness going on there. Was that Robin Fritz and 35 Mercedes? There you go. Have a look at this. Oh, the Audi comes storming in, overtakes the Mercedes at pit in, then stands on the brakes. What's all that about?
Petulance, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, the difficulty is you be driving around this racetrack and have nobody around you, and all of a sudden at the critical point you find maybe more than one car, and maybe somebody who's not been fully signed up to using their mirrors, and therefore causes an issue, and that looks very much the case. Mirko Bortolotti happy with his work, gets the car up into the second row of the grid, third quickest overall.
Let's look at the times at the end of Q2. The order topped by Raffaele Marciello. It's Mercedes 1-2 because Luca Stolz second. Lamborghini third, Mirko Bortolotti. Ferrari fourth, Carlo Van Dam the best. Audi fifth, Christopher Mies ahead of the similar car from the Santalok team of Christopher Hasse. Mercedes seventh, Denis Bulletov ahead of Tristan Vautier's sister car. Then it is Albert Costa in the Lexus. Robin Fritz only 10th ahead of Franck Pereira and Alex Corneve completing the top dozen. Then, for 13th fastest, the Audi of Marcus Winkelhock ahead of Andrea Caldarelli, who flattered to deceive a little bit in that session. Kelvin van der Linde only 15th ahead of Ricardo Feller. Then Will Stevens 17th from Pierre Caffer. The BMW 19th of Luis Moraes. Then Christian Maltrek. Jack Manchester only 21st, frustratingly for him. And of course, Marcus Paltela did not get out in the damaged Lexus. So those are the times then at the end of Q2. And it is Raffaele Marciello who is on pole position for race 2. It'll be a very happy Raffaele Marciello for sure. He's with Dakota.
Boys, congratulations. That was a mega qualifying. Raffaele, you were absolutely flying on track today.
Yeah, the car was really good. Our Mercedes Bayaka was really good around here. It's a good start position for the race. Also, Michael did an amazing job. So, I mean, we can have a good race 1 and race 2 for the weekend.
Now, Michael, you've already had success here in the Silver Cup last year. Could this be another successful weekend for you?
I hope so. It started well. Like Raffaele said, the car's feeling good. I'm a little bit annoyed that I didn't put a lap together to give us a better position, but the car feels good, and he did an amazing lap to do that lap time. So in the race, if we're sensible and make no mistakes, we should be okay.
You'll have to go have a chat with Nico Bastian. But you had the third sector at least. Congratulations, both of you. Thank you.
Interesting, isn't it, the different attitudes there. Michael Meadows fourth on the grid, which is respectable, but clearly very frustrated that his lap time was no better.
Well, whether your teammate is in another car, as you would have in a single-seater championship, or you're sharing a car, you always want to be the quicker of the two. And Michael Meadows, who is very, very much more the quieter, in a sense of expression, of the two drivers, Raffaele being Italian, much more Italian in the way he explains things. So the disappointment clearly for Michael is I was slower than my teammate, and everybody can see that. And what can you do? But all you can do is get out and do your best when you get your chances in the car in the first of these two sprint rounds this afternoon.
Indeed. Let's have a look at the highlights then of qualifying. Those two sessions with the teams all set to go for the first 20-minute segment. For some, it was not a very lengthy part of the day because we had drama almost from the off as far as the Lexus was concerned. Norbert Siedler having this moment possibly caused by a tyre going down. The team's still looking at that, but he spun across the road into the wall, did damage to the car, and that brought out the red flags. The car had to be retrieved, the barrier sorted, and when we got back underway, it was the number 1 Audi hustling on to try to get itself to the very top of the times. 1 or 2 using a lot of curb, and it was Nico Bastian who was the fastest come the end of the session. A really good run, bearing in mind as well that he's never raced here before. The teams then got set for Q2, which in terms of drama was perhaps calmer, but in terms of time was still very exciting indeed. And in the end, it was Raffaele Marciello who came through the fastest. It means that we have Mercedes on pole position for both races at Hungary this weekend.